What's up, guys? Welcome back. I'm Mike.
And I'm Brit.
And last week we made a video about 5 things we don't buy in our 30s that we bought a lot of in our 20s. This video we're going to be talking about the exact opposite. 5 things we buy in our 30s, we actually spend thousands of dollars on these things in our 30s that we didn't buy at all in our 20s, and we maybe kind of wish we had.
And it's not like we didn't know these things existed in our 20s. It's just that when we were that young, we were pretty much ignorant to the value that these had. And also for the vast majority of our 20s, we didn't think too much for ourselves.
Yeah, we just kind of went with the flow, we did what everybody else was doing. Didn't think about the fact that, hey, we're probably still going to be alive 10 years from now.
Yeah.
The actions and the habits that we're developing right now are quite possibly going to have a big impact on what our lives look like 10 years from now. So needless to say, we didn't think too much about things that could provide long-term value to us back when we were in our 20s. And we wish we had. So with that being said, here are 5 things that we buy in our 30s, we spend a lot of money on in our 30s, that we didn't buy at all in our 20s.
And number 1 is books. And this was something that we never really bought for ourselves unless we had to for school.
And then only half of us read the books that we bought. And it was that half, not this half. So now we buy books out of our own free will because we want to learn something about a subject, or we want to get better at something, or we just want to learn from other people's experiences and so on.
Yeah, or something we really wish we could improve on.
So here's the thing about books. Let's just think of a simple transaction, right? So in a transaction, you're purchasing something, either a product or a service, with money. Generally speaking, I would assume that whatever you're purchasing, you value more than the money you're paying for it, or else you wouldn't make the purchase. With books, the value you get out of a book versus the price you pay for it is just so lopsided. Like it's so tilted toward the value side, it's insane. You can learn something in a matter of days just by reading the book that it took somebody else years or even decades to learn on their own, going through trial and error or their own mistakes or things like that. There's so much value that can come from books.
So a huge example for us in our lives comes from reading the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And the biggest thing we learned from this book that would have taken us decades was to buy assets, not liabilities.
Assets being things that bring you more and more money over time rather than take more and more money away from you over time. And we probably would have learned this on our own, like a few years to maybe a decade or so, but like reading the book, we learned it in a few days. And the point was so powerfully made that this one, there are many lessons to be learned in this book, but like just this one thing will probably make us hundreds of thousands of dollars by the time we retire, just for paying $15 for a book. Okay, the second thing that we buy a lot of in our 30s that we didn't buy in our 20s, and this is along the same lines as books, and that's courses and mentorship groups. Our purpose in buying these is very, very similar to purchasing books, in that like we want to learn firsthand from somebody else's experiences, from their mistakes, etc. It's just that courses and mentorship groups are so much more, they just feel more personal and one-on-one, because you actually get to meet with this person that you want to learn from, and so on. So the things that Brit and I have signed up for are, we signed up for a course about how to grow on YouTube a while ago, and that's paid off exponentially. We also signed up for a mentorship group who's led by somebody that we have a lot of respect for here on YouTube, and that also paid off a lot. So obviously these can be kind of expensive just depending on who it is and how long it goes for, but in our experience, if you implement what is taught or gone over in the course or the live groups or whatever, well, at least for us, it's paid off.
Yeah.
And it's been more than worth it.
Yeah, and another thing this will help with too is if you're in like a niche area and somewhere that maybe doesn't have a lot of books for technically, but you want to do more hands-on or meet with someone who's already done it and learn from, this would be something good to do. And number 3 is buying healthier foods. So Mike and I in our 20s ate a lot of junk food, and college did not help with that. And Mike was a competitive swimmer, so he ate a lot.
Oh yeah, I was eating all the time. Like there were days I'd have like 4 bowls of cereal, two peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, like a big bowl of ice cream for dessert at dinner time, like big stack of pancakes for breakfast, all the maple syrup you could imagine, whipped cream.
Carb overload.
Yeah.
So now we try to eat more clean and I guess you could say organic foods. And that's just because we know that what we do now is going to have a long-term effect in our future. So we're trying to make some healthy decisions.
Yeah. And it's not like we're just buying all organic right now. Like we still have a little bit of junk food here and there, and regular food. I hate calling it regular food, but like non-organic stuff. But we're trying to be more health conscious.
Yeah.
And we're trying to be more aware of what we're putting in our bodies, because these are the only bodies we have in this lifetime. We want to take care of our bodies so we can live longer and have a healthier life. And I guess this is pretty typical not to really worry about this all that much in your 20s, just because you're still growing, your metabolism's ramped up more so than normal, I would suppose. You can get away with eating a lot more unhealthy foods than you could when you're 30 or 40 or something like that. All right, number 4 is stocks and index funds. And oh my gosh, guys, this one is huge. The stock market is like the best place that Brit and I know of to make passive income and long-term passive income. It's the best way to grow your net worth over time. We wish we had purchased something in the stock market in our 20s, like a good set of stocks, good set of companies or index funds or something like that. If we had invested $10,000 10 years ago, that would have grown to very close to $40,000 today. But instead we were focused on buying candy bars and things like that.
Basically, we didn't pay any attention to the stock market except for when the collapse happened in 2008.
Yeah, that was the extent of like how much education we had about the stock market in our 20s. I cannot place enough emphasis on the opportunities to grow your net worth and to grow your income that exist in the stock market. It is insane. We're not experts on this by any means, but just what we've learned over the past year or so, investing in the market ourselves, like the opportunities are endless. We wish we had paid more attention to this type of thing in our 20s because we could be so far ahead right now. It's ridiculous the amount of money we could have right now if we were this educated about the market in our 20s as we are now.
Or even in high school, if they had taught it in high school, that would have been amazing.
So when it comes to investing, I guess Brittany's and my goals, well, we have a few of them. One, we have our Roth IRAs, which is basically just like a safe bet. We're just placing $6,000 a year for each of us in there, and we're just letting it ride. We're setting it aside, not doing anything with it. The second portfolio we have is an aggressive growth portfolio. It's basically like I don't want to say we're speculating, but we're betting on companies that we see have a massive opportunity for growth over the next 5 or 10 years. The third thing we're doing in the stock market is trying to build up a passive income portfolio, which is based around dividend stocks. So think of stocks like Microsoft, Apple, and even ETFs that pay dividends. So like SCHD, Home Depot's a good dividend payer as well. Just companies like that, solid companies that pay their shareholders a portion of the revenue every month or every quarter or something like that. And our hope in doing this is so we could gradually start replacing our working income with this passive income we're making from the market.
And number 5 is traveling. And what we mean by traveling is not just small trips here and there across state lines. We mean big trips. So places we can go to that have an impact or experience on us that help us grow and learn, and we can make memories together.
As an example, like Brittany and I have been to Hawaii 2 times. We actually lived in Hawaii for 3 or 4 months a while ago, and we've visited a number of times since then. And we've been to California twice. I don't know, I guess for those who live around California, you may be like, well, how is that traveling according to your definition? Well, we live in Atlanta, so like, California is it's a beautiful state. It's full of like, these huge rolling hills and mountains, and there's a coastline. It's epic compared to this concrete jungle that we live in here in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Being able to experience all the outdoors that California has to offer is just incredible. Same thing with Hawaii. That's like even bigger than California is, at least in terms of Brittany's and my experience. Like, we didn't even have AC. We were sweating our butts off the entire time, but we lived in a beautiful environment. Where we were living while we stayed there was like we were living right next to the ocean, but we had the beach on one side and the rainforest on the other side. Mm-hmm. We could see 2 volcanoes from our lanai. It was just incredible. It's difficult to put into words because the culture there is very different. The way of living there is very different. And that introduced us into, I guess, like different perspectives about life and made us think about things in ways that we hadn't necessarily thought of before. Mm-hmm. It made us stop and reflect upon the goals that we had for ourselves up until that point. And it made us, question some things about our lives as well. So this is what we mean by traveling. And I remember coming back to Atlanta from Hawaii. I remember coming away with the realization that like life is about a lot more than money. Mm-hmm. It's really about experiences.
And memories, and making memories.
Places we still want to go are Iceland, Japan, Hawaii again, obviously, Banff National Forest in Canada.
And that list keeps growing, and it's just a big goal we have to travel more and make more memories.
Yeah. Yep. So if you ever have the opportunity to where you can go somewhere totally new and immerse yourself there for like a week or 2 or even a month, we would highly recommend it. Even if you're uncomfortable, like Brittany and I were with the massive heat that we experienced in Hawaii, like you're going to learn something. You always learn something out of your comfort zone.
Yep, you do.
All right, guys, and that concludes the 5 things we spend a lot of money on in our 30s that we didn't spend hardly any money on, except for the books, really, in our 20s. We hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a huge thumbs up. It helps out tremendously with the YouTube algorithm. Also, leave us a comment if you guys are watching this, if you're in your 30s, maybe what you spend money on today that you didn't in your 20s, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Maybe you're in your 20s watching this. What do you spend money on today that you don't think you'll spend any money on in your 30s?
Also, subscribe for more, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram at It's Mike and Brit. We post there every now and then.
Yeah. Thanks again for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.